That was how does Yellow Page work? Don't laugh at me, Jerome. I'm asking a genuine question here.
I think AI is a tool and you have to use it wisely. If you abuse it and if you depend too much on it, it can destroy you.
I never listen to like that.
Oh,
I find it so boring. And there's no music.
It was all talk.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hello everyone, welcome to Kwentuhang Creative Podcast. My name is Keshi and sitting next to me is someone who used to interview me and today I'm interviewing her, Miss Maridel Martinez Andanar.
Hello, nice to be here. Thank you for having
Yes,
me.
thank you for accepting my invitation.
I'm a bit nervous because the tables are turned.
I'm nervous because I'm very new to this kind of thing.
I'm not used to being interviewed.
Okay, well, we'll figure it out.
Yes, we'll figure it out. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, what do you think of our DIY studio? It's nothing like an SBS.
I was telling you because I used to work in TV production.
Yeah.
So when I was telling you about we used to have bigger setups and bigger lights, and so now it's good that you could do it at home with the same or if not equal quality, because before, if you wanted to do something like medyo low tech or like low budget, sometimes you could really see it. You'd use a V8 camera and stuff, but now with SD cards or memory cards, it's a lot easier and you can just use a really good SLR camera.
Yeah.
But before, you really needed like a video camera.
Yeah.
So that was back in the 90s.
Yeah, well, we were talking about that earlier. Yeah. Like you were telling me how this
Betacam.
Betacam.
Yeah. So we used a camera named Betacam, and so it's a Sony brand. I think they still have it now, but it's 10 kilos. So that's just the video camera, and then the cameraman would have like a built-in microphone, but if you really wanted good quality, you'd have to have your reporter or your soundman carrying a boom mic or like a handheld mic.
Yeah.
And then you'd have someone have a light if with this setup, or he would have like a porta light on top of the camera.
Yeah, I'm just trying to imagine how that works. So like say for the camera, and then the beta,
So
tape would be on top of the camera or something?
It would be inside. It's like
Okay.
if you've seen a cassette player,
Yeah.
similar to that.
So it'd be a huge camera then.
Yes, it's a 10-kilo camera,
Oh my God.
as big as probably half this table.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So
Do they carry it on their shoulder?
on your shoulder.
Oh,
So if you
wow.
see people in news conferences, a lot of them still use that nowadays, but without the tape. So now they use the memory card.
Yeah, I see. Because when I was studying in RMIT, I did the screen and media. So it's like film and TV production.
Yes.
So we studied the film and the TV. And we had some experience using an ENG camera,
Yes.
which is what the big ones that they use in the studios.
Yes.
That for me is pretty big already.
So that was what we used on the field when
Yeah.
I was in TV production.
But I can't imagine having those huge films.
Yeah. So if I go on a shoot when I was doing production, we would have like a big bag, would consist of at least 10 tapes, 30-minute tapes for a day shoot.
Oh, a day shoot.
Yes.
30 minutes.
Yes.
Wow.
For each tape. So we would have like a different tape for interviews.
Yeah.
And then we would have a different tape for, we call them, I don't know if you call them the same, but situationers or video, like just your interviewee doing action shots, cleaning the room or reading a book. Or if you wanted to shoot neutral shots, like people walking in the city. So you'd have a different tape for that. And we'd always have a Sharpie and then a tape, like a masking tape, and then we would label it. So, and then I'd have my notebook, and in my notebook I would do a shot list of what's in the tape. so that when I do my shot list for editing, I already know which tapes. Because if I do it for editing, I'd need to time code it so that when we do editing, it would be so easy to find. So we
Yeah.
worked on time codes. I'm not sure if you still do that now.
Yeah, well, there is time codes in like digital video editing still, because time
Yeah.
codes are very
Yes,
important.
so it makes things more efficient and
Yeah.
faster. Yeah.
Yeah, but how do you? Because you said there's like B rolls and stuff, and like when you because when you edit now, it's so easy because you just cut the say the video footage, and if you want to insert a B-roll footage or whatever, you just
Splice it.
insert
Yeah.
it. And yeah, but how does it work with like
So you have an
films?
A roll and a B roll. So if you really have a really high tech setup, you'd have three players,
Mhm.
2 players, and a recorder. So the third one would be a recorder. But if you just had like minimal setup, you'd have 2 players, 1 recorder, and 1 player, and then you'd transfer the image to the master tape. Or if you have an A roll and a B roll, you could do it one after the other. So yeah.
Okay, because I was.
So I think they called it non-linear
Yeah,
editing
yeah.
back then. Yeah.
Because I thought you had to like physically cut.
No, that was I think in the 60s.
Okay.
Not during my time.
Okay. So
Yeah.
that makes it a lot easier then.
Yes, but it was still time consuming in
Mm.
a sense that you have to shot list everything. And when I worked I worked for TV production, and I worked in show called The Inside Story. That was my first job. And we would transcribe every interview that we did for the writer. So I was a production assistant then, so that the writer could read it, splice it, and get the grab or the sound bite that the writer would like for the documentary or the news and current affairs show. So I started from there when I started way back in the 90s.
Is it in the Philippines or
Yes,
here?
in the Philippines. So in the Philippines, I worked for a TV company. My first job was a production assistant for The Inside Story with ABS-CBN. So that was in the early 90s. So my first boss was Lauren Legarda.
Oh, yeah.
She's a senator now.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. I know her as a senator.
Yeah, so she used to be a broadcast journalist.
Nice. And how did you, now that we're talking about how, like your first job in the Philippines, how did you started doing, like journalism or?
Ever since I was a child. Well, when I was a little girl, they would ask me, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" I didn't really know, so I said a businesswoman because my family was into the fishing business. So
not the fishing, but like the business side
yeah.
of it.
So my grandma had her own. She was a fish broker. So in the Philippines, so my family's from Malabon, originally, and in Navotas they had this huge fish port. So where they would sell the fish in bulk from the ship or from the sea or wherever. So my grandma and my mom did that, and my granddad and my dad, they caught the fish, and my lola and my mom sold it on wholesale. So that was the only thing I knew. So I wanted to be a businesswoman. Then I realized, so they worked at night, so that the fish gets to the market fresh early in the morning.
Yeah.
I said, oh, that's not really a job that I like. And then you had to do a lot of maths, and I hated math.
Yes.
So when growing up, my grandma, so my nanay, I called her, and my dad were really, so his family, they were obsessed with news and current affairs. So when we were doing like, we'll have Sunday lunch, they'll talk about politics, they'll talk about what's going on, and then they would always tell me, you have to read the newspaper, you have to be updated, you have to know what's happening. And so I think back then we had so it was Manila Bulletin when I was young, that we had a subscription. And then towards the 80s, after EDSA, it was the Manila Bulletin, the Inquirer, and the Philippine Star. So we'd had that, and my dad would have a subscription of Newsweek. And they would all say, you have to read. So And then eventually I got fascinated with news because they would watch the news. And when I was young, we had Harry Gasser. I don't know if anyone of you knows. So they were like the
I'll have to
popular.
Google him.
They were the popular newscasters.
Yeah.
And then I had Lauren Legarda. She
Mm.
was doing the news.
Also, she does like
She did the
newscasting as
evening
well.
newscast. So Nolly
Oh.
De Castro, you're familiar.
Yeah.
So he was doing TV Patrol. So this was post EDSA.
Mm.
And then so they, and as I saw that, I was amazed, and I was like, because I love watching TV. So I was glued to the TV, and then I would watch the news, and I was amazed how people could just, deliver what was happening during the day
Mm.
at the end of the day and
Yeah.
tell you what's happening and can predict what might happen tomorrow. So yeah, so from then on, I had this image of myself working for the news department. And when I was at university, I took communication arts, but I didn't really major in journalism. I majored in speech writing,
Mm.
but it was part of it as well. And
Yeah.
then eventually, I found my way to ABS CBN and Inside Story, and that's really where I learned a lot of things. And when they asked me, "What did you learn in college?" I learned how to be an adult, but when I worked, I learned how to be um I learned the ropes, as they say.
Mm.
You live, life. Because
Yeah.
when you're in college, you're still a bit sheltered, and you really don't know what's happening in the real world unless you're thrown into it. So
Yeah.
that's when I knew how to do, how to talk to people, how to find my way to convince them to be interviewed or to look for talents and stuff like that. So yeah, everything I learned, I would have to say I learned when I was working at the Inside Story.
Mm. And how did it I guess because when you moved here, were you still like were you thinking like, oh, I still want to continue doing this, or were you
I was
just
hoping I would.
okay?
So when I moved here initially, that was in 99. So I moved here because my husband moved here.
Mm.
And so he said, "Wouldn't it be boring if you just lived in the Philippines all your life? Why don't you try in Australia?" Because I was already working,
Mm.
and I was really hesitant. I was of leaving because it was just starting, and it was really getting good. I was getting contacts. I was working freelance, and you know how hard it is to work freelance, right? So after AVS-CBN, I went freelance,
Mm.
but then I found my network, and I was getting jobs left and right, and I was enjoying it. But then I knew it was a choice between that, which was going to be like for what, 5, 10 years, to the rest of my life. So yeah, I moved here with him, and then it was hard at first. I couldn't find a job that I wanted, so I
Mm.
worked odd jobs as well as anyone would do. And there were days where I would find myself sobbing. It's like, what am
Oh.
I doing
Yeah.
here? And I graduated and I worked here and there, and then this is what I'm doing. So, and then I'd get up, and then I found my way to SBS. So I've been there since 2001.
Mm-hmm. Brian actually told me that you used to be in Triple R
No,
Radio.
not me. That wasn't
Huh?
me.
Maybe it was someone
No,
else.
it was someone else.
Okay.
I worked for a while, 3CR.
Okay.
I worked for like 2 shows, but then when I got the gig at SBS, I had to give that up because it
Mm.
was conflict of the interest. Even though it was volunteer
Yeah.
work, it was the same line of work that I
Yeah.
was just doing with SBS. So yes, 3CR, I did
Ah.
that
Yeah.
for a short time.
Yeah. Well, but why did you try like going for actually like newscasting in front of a camera, or is it
I
just the
never
radio?
wanted to do that.
Okay.
So when I was working in the news department, they had auditions to
Yeah.
become an on-cam news reader, and I could have also applied to be like a news reporter,
Mm.
but I found more fulfillment in putting a story together,
Mm.
researching. And so if you were a news reporter, you would have to do the story in a day. So you'd go to the scene, you'd gather up your facts and write it up, interview, and then you present it for the evening's newscast.
Mm.
But what I did when I did news and current affairs, I did a 15-minute story, which I put together with a group of people in the span of 5-6 days. So that's what, because I did like extensive research. We didn't have the internet then. So you had to really go on the field,
Yeah.
look for the people. And we had yellow pages, white pages. So you couldn't search someone up on the internet like Keshi, where does she live and what's her background. So yeah, so the internet back then was just for emails, I think.
How does Yellow Page work? Don't laugh at me, Jerome. I'm asking a genuine question here.
We still have it here, don't we?
Yeah, I've seen one.
Yeah, so you just look for whatever you want. Plumbing, search in P, and then it'll be there.
Would you have to like register yourself to be
Yes,
in it?
you would have to
okay.
register. Just like in the white pages, you would have, when you put I don't know if they still have it, but they would ask you, would you like your name to be listed or would you like it to remain silent? Things like that, yeah.
So yeah, like just like Google, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah.
You can
But
hide
in a
yourself
book.
from Google, yes.
Yeah. Cool. How do you need a
No, I'm good.
Okay.
No, I'm just laughing at it. You've never experienced that part of Australia. And what about Melbase? Do you know Melbase?
What?
I don't think she does.
Do you know? Do you?
I remember Melways.
Melways were cool.
Yeah.
They were like the old GPS.
It's like
you had to memorize what it was.
It's a white page. Melways that was like the bone of contention between me and my husband, because I don't drive. I've never driven in my life, and I am the worst person to ask directions.
Oh my God.
I can't read maps, so when we have to go somewhere, it was Melways because we didn't have GPS back then.
Mm-hmm.
Even on your phone didn't have that capability back then. It was a Nokia thing that could only send text and take photos. So before we went anywhere, he would get the address and then he would locate the page on the Melway, and then he would put tabs on them and he would say, go to the next page, tell me, and then he will write the directions, turn left at this turn, because I can't read the Melway. And we would
Is it like a map or?
Yes.
Okay.
But a book.
Okay.
That would tell you go to page 50 for the next place and stuff. So it's like a map, but you have to know how to navigate your way through the book. So yeah, and I hated doing that.
That sounds confusing.
Yeah. So every time we had to go somewhere,
Yeah.
he would locate it in the Melway and write it on post-its, which page, where the turn is, because I'm hopeless. So if you tell me, how do I get to Federation Square from Southern Cross, I would tell you, take the train anywhere that says Flinders Street, and then when you get to Flinders Street, you just cross the road. I won't tell you which street it is. So I work by landmarks. So don't tell me 500 meters.
Oh, I can't do that as well.
So,
like sometimes, like even when I had the GPS on and say I'm walking in CBD, right, looking for a restaurant, even with the GPS on, I still get lost.
Oh yes. So one time my youngest son and I were walking, and he was like, Mom, I think we're walking around in circles. Like, I'm just following the phone.
I've done
and
that.
Then my son was like, can I have a look? And he goes, it's the other way around, Mom. Oh, I said, okay, from now on, you navigate.
Yeah. I mean, it's confusing because sometimes it's like pointing this way and sometimes it's pointing this way. It's not accurate. It's not my fault.
When the iPhone was actually new and it had that capability, and I was by myself, and so my children were like toddlers. I would ring my husband at work. I'm lost, and he goes, and I would be close to tears. He go, where are you? Like, why didn't you follow the GPS? Like, I did, but I'm lost, and I don't know how to look at it. So he would ask me where I am, and he'd locate it, and he'd give me directions to find my way to where I'm supposed to go. Yeah, because in the Philippines, when I worked in the media industry, we had a driver. So we called him the pilot or the piloto. So his job was just to take us from point A to point B.
Yeah.
And so my job was to tell him where we were going. and my job was to ask the person that we were going to go to, which is the easiest route, and they'd give me directions. I'd write it down, and then I'll give it to the driver.
Yeah.
So he'll take us there, he'll drop us off, and then we'll set up for the interview, and then he'll come and pick us up. And I never had to find my way. And in the
Yeah.
Philippines, everyone, it was so easy. Boss, san ba yung ganyan?
Yeah.
So, but here you can't do that.
Yeah. You can't just like stop in the middle of the road and
I know.
ask for directions.
I remember we were driving from Warrnambool going to Ballarat, but we were getting lost. And he goes, just ask people. And then my husband goes, where? Because it was in the middle of nowhere. So it was like maybe 10 kilometers before you found a milk bar. So yeah, it was so different.
Yeah. Well, so did you move to Warrnambool?
Well,
first?
when I moved here, the first place I lived was Warrnambool, because my husband worked for a meat company there. So that was his first job. So I had to go there, and I remember loving it because it was so relaxed.
Yeah.
But then after a month, I've seen all the shows on cable TV. We had cable back then.
Yeah.
And then Warrnambool's a small place, so you could go around and see all the sites in a week. And so when time became slower and more, what am I going to do next? So, and then eventually he found an employment opportunity here in Melbourne. So we moved to Melbourne I think that's in the mid 2000s. So I lived in Warrnambool for 6 months, something like that.
Yeah, because I could sort of relate to that, because when we first moved to Australia, it was in South Australia, and
that's like Warrnambool.
yeah. Well, we're not even in Adelaide. We're like, it's a town called Port Augusta, and it's like 4 hours away from Adelaide.
Yeah, so that's like Warrnambool.
Yeah, it is sort of. So I can totally relate. Like, it's quiet, it's nice, and you sort of know. I used to go to the church and play in the church band, so you sort of know almost everyone in the town.
So when I lived in Warrnambool, there were a handful of Filipinos.
Yeah.
So there were hardly any place that you could go to get your Nor seasoning or your Lucky Me pancit noodle. So there wasn't any of that when I lived in Warrnambool, and you would know most of the Filipinos there because there's only a handful of them. But now if you go there, there's like a whole community. So the people, our friends still live there, but there's a whole new generation.
Do they have like North seasonings and stuff?
Yeah, I get. They have a Filipino shop there.
That's good.
So yeah, and they take part in multicultural festivals. So they're very active back there in the southwest.
Yeah, that's nice. But do you ever feel like, because whenever I go there, because it's very close to the Great Ocean Road, and I don't often go there. I would go there like maybe every few years. And I always say that, oh my god, this is so gorgeous. The view is like stunning.
You'd like to live there?
Yeah, but like, do you ever feel like you're sick of it?
No.
If you see it every time?
No, I lived there for 6 months and I loved it. So when I was sad, I would walk to the beach because I love the beach.
It's like therapeutic.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the sound of the waves, I love it. And then, so I pretty much like trees and nature, and so I was very much a city girl when I moved here, and so I loved it because it was very calm and it was very quiet. So part of me still wanted to stay there, but there wasn't any employment opportunity for me, so I had to move to the city. But we would always find ourselves going back for short trips or a day trip in let's say along the Great Ocean Road in Lorne, which is closer to Melbourne. So we love the beach, so we always go to the beach. There's something about the water that's calming and soothing. Yeah. So for a time when we didn't have kids yet, we lived in St. Kilda in the Esplanade. So that was in front of the beach.
Yeah.
So that was one of the best places we've lived. But it's not a place for children. So
yeah, it's sort of like a different kind of beach, I guess, compared to the Great Ocean Road.
Yes.
And I feel like that area is like a perfect combo because you've got the the ocean and the coastal views, and then you can go to the Otways,
Yes.
the forest and the
Yes.
mountains and stuff, which is also
Yeah.
very
So it's the best of both worlds.
yeah.
Yes, I still love Warrnambool. The thing is, it's just too far to go to every day to commute for work.
Yeah, I think it's about
4
2
hours by train.
Oh, by train. Oh, you can go there by train.
There's a V line that goes directly to Southern Cross.
Oh yeah, I see that. Yeah,
But
no,
it's
I
4
remember. I
hours
was like,
each
where
way.
does it
So it's
go?
like a day's work to
Yeah.
travel to Melbourne.
Well, maybe you should you would need to stay there for a few days.
Yes.
If you're gonna travel.
If you're gonna, so it's like you're gonna have 2 houses if you want the best of both worlds. So one of my on my wish list or on our wish list is to have a house by the beach, because it's really like you're transported somewhere else.
Yeah, same. It's just so expensive though.
Yes. You can always have a wish list though.
True. Yeah. So how did you? I was just thinking when you're talking about living in Warrnambool, how did you sort of manage to find that opportunity working in radio from the...
Oh, well, so we moved to Melbourne, and when I moved to Melbourne, my brother-in-law studied his undergraduate here it was called Federation Uni back then. So it's Ballarat University now. So my brother-in-law did his undergraduate there, and he worked for SBS Radio. So he is really the radio person, because back home in the Philippines, he used to DJ. And then when he came here to study, he started like a student radio station at then Federation University. So some people would probably know my brother-in-law because he worked for the previous administration, Martin Andanar. So he is really, ironically, he's on TV, but I can honestly say his first love is radio. So he worked for SBS. Back then, they had a youth group. So they did stories about the youth, so migrant life and things like that. So he left. When I came here, he went back to the Philippines, and he started his career there. And my mother-in-law said, can you help Maridel look for a job, because you're in the same industry? And so what he did was he gave me the contact details for the EP of the Filipino program, Malulugan, which good for me. Like, luckily they were looking for casual producers. So I started as a casual producer. I did the language test, I did the writing under pressure, translation under pressure, and things like that. So that was in 2001, and I never left.
What was the language test? Like, is it like for English and Filipino?
So you would have to translate paragraphs or phrases in Filipino. So it has to be Filipino, not Tagalog.
Yeah.
So if you're Bisaya, if you're Kapampangan, and you don't use Filipino as much, it will be difficult because it's like formal language. So ironically, I never really wrote anything in Filipino until I moved here, because it was always English in the Philippines, right?
Or
so I did a children's show. It was called Chikiting Patrol. It was in Taglish, so we never wrote in full English, and it was a children's show. It wasn't the Filipino or the Tagalog there wasn't as deep as what we use on radio here.
Okay, so we were just talking about karaoke. I love karaoke. My boyfriend doesn't. He same reason. He's giving me the same reason that he just gave us just now.
Yeah, that's not me. Like, I'm probably the 5% of Filipinos who don't do karaoke, and my friends from the Philippines can attest to that. You would rather not hear my voice.
I mean, have you tried though?
I have this good friend in the Philippines, and we did karaoke for just after work. And then she goes, you have a nice diction, but yeah, that's it.
What a compliment. You have a nice diction.
Let's stick to reading.
The diction.
I can't carry a tune. And I wouldn't know back then, before like when I was younger, I wouldn't even know I was out of tune. So people would have to tell, like, yeah, I'm tone deaf.
Yeah, I think, well, that's what they said. Usually, like with tone deaf people, they don't realize that they're tone deaf.
No,
But mostly, like if you're singing with friends, they usually don't care.
no.
They do? Okay.
So my in-laws,
Uh,
there's 5 of them, right? This is my husband's siblings. There are 5 in the family, and they can all sing.
okay.
So I married into a very musical family.
Mm.
And so they play instruments, they can sing, and they can basically do anything. I wash the dishes.
And just enjoy the music.
Yeah, even my children, when I started singing, it's like, Mom, what are you on about? So no. So in our house, we have that guitar, because that's very Filipino, right?
Yeah.
So my children, they play the guitar. My husband likes playing I just listen to them, or I take a video and share it on Facebook to embarrass them. But no, if you want to get back at me, find me singing, and and yeah, that would be very embarrassing.
Do you have like any like videos of you singing
No.
that people could use as a blackmailing
No.
content?
Maybe they had it in video cams back then,
Yeah.
but nah,
Okay.
it'll be moldy by now.
Alright, you're safe then.
Yes.
You've
No,
erased all of the.
I don't sing.
Okay.
I usually, when people see how I get invited to parties and they have karaoke,
Yeah.
and so I can read it for you, but no, don't no.
It's very common for like Filipino parties to have
Yes,
karaoke.
so I just sit in the background and pretend to be singing, but I don't don't give me the mic.
Yeah. What do you do when like not really karaoke, but when you had to sing the national anthem?
Oh, that was good, because that was
Okay.
a group.
Yeah.
There wasn't any
It's a
mic.
group effort.
Yeah, it's group effort. No,
And you can just mouth the.
yes, I basically just mouth it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, because no.
Yeah.
When I was pregnant with my children, I had to make sure that I didn't sing, because I was, I how like in the Philippine culture, like, whatever you do when you're pregnant, you might pass it on to your kids.
Yeah.
So I made sure that I didn't sing, and I always played music into my belly. I had the earphones and played it on my belly. But nah, I didn't sing along to it.
Can your children sing? Or?
Yes.
Okay.
Uh,
I guess that worked.
I can sing along with the dogs.
Yeah, I guess that playing with the headphones worked. Yeah.
Yes, it did.
My mom used to tell me that she used to do the same thing when she was pregnant with me. Like she would play, I think, Celine Dion songs or whatever.
Yeah.
And then turns out, growing up, I sang Celine Dion songs as well. It was like my practice song that I would sing in karaoke.
I used to play I Believe I Can Fly. So songs like that.
Yeah.
Like very and I like playing so I grew up Eraserheads every now and then, because that's my favorite band, but yeah. Not my voice.
Eraserheads are like just reminding me of something. Like last time I went to Philippines,
They're really huge.
Yeah, and like my younger cousins, they're still listening to Eraserheads, and I was like, wow, like this Eraserheads is like older than me, like the music, and now these younger generation are still listening to them.
When I was at uni, they kind of dubbed them as the Beatles of the 90s. So, because they had songs. So I went to UP. So they're from UP. So I love them because their songs related to life in UP. So they said, yung Kalayaan, minsan, they sang about the street called Kalayaan. So that's a street in UP Diliman. And then, Tindahan ni Aling Nena. It's like when you're in UP, you always, you make tambay.
Yeah.
So you hang out in a milk bar of some sort. So if you're in Australia, it's in a milk bar. If you're Filipino, you'd know sari-sari store. So yeah. So those things, because it kind of reminds me of my college life, so that's
Mm.
why I love them.
Yeah.
And I guess it translates to the next generation as well, because it's been remade.
Yeah.
It's been done. A lot of people have done covers of them.
Yeah. And like you said, like their songs are very relatable
Yes.
and easy to listen to. Like it's
Yeah.
not like the genre of their music is something that
Yes.
I feel like everyone can enjoy.
So Ligaya is like your first love and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So yeah, so it's very relatable.
Yeah. So do you listen to like music and radios a lot back in the Philippines or?
When I was in the Philippines,
Yeah.
I worked in news, right? So
Yeah.
if I rode a taxi, I didn't like it because it was all on AM. And that was going to be my thing for the whole day.
Yeah.
Like news. So
Yeah.
I'd have my, back then, Discman.
Mm.
So I'd listen to a lot of music and I read a lot. So I'd always have a book. I have a really big bag and people would say, what's in your bag? It's like everything you need. But I always have a book in my bag. And back then, a Discman. Nowadays, it's your phone.
Yeah.
But now that I work on radio, I have my headphones on all day. So if I go to work and on my way back to work, usually I just read.
Mm.
Or if I'm too tired to read, that's when I watch videos and stuff like that. But when I leave the office, I switch off. I forget about the news and then I just do a restart or a reset before I go to bed. So that, because I leave really early. When I wake up in the morning, that's when I scroll and look what's happened. Is there anything that's changed?
Mm.
And then that's when I switch on. But every time I leave the office, the studios, I switch off.
Yeah.
Because it gets to you.
Yeah, true. Yeah. For me, like radio, when it comes to radio growing up, I never listened to like the AM.
Oh,
Because I
no.
found it so boring. And there's no music.
It was
at
all talk. Yes.
Yeah.
I hardly listened to AM
Yeah.
because it was all talk. In the Philippines, AM is very opinionated,
Yeah.
unlike here, like in SBS, we can't editorialize, so we
Mm.
follow a set of guidelines, and if we don't,
It has to
we
be
get it.
factual. Yeah.
We get into trouble. I
Yeah.
can't tell you what I think about a certain thing.
Mm.
I can only tell you what the experts say about a certain thing.
Mm.
So so in the Philippines, it's very opinionated, it's very loud, and it's very fast. Whereas here, it's very calm, it's
Yeah.
very factual, it's very, So in the Philippines, it's like 5 kilometers a minute when they talk.
Yeah. So yeah, like I never listened to like AM. I always listen to like FM though, because they play music a lot and they have like very fun
Yes.
DJs.
Yes, in the Philippines.
Yeah, in the
Yes.
Philippines. Like I remember Papa
Girl-
Jack.
I don't know him anymore. When I was growing up, it was a Trigger Man.
Okay.
That was really popular, so that really dates me.
Yeah.
But I remember as well growing up in the Philippines. So we didn't have washing machines back then. So
Mhm.
someone would do the hand wash.
Yeah.
So they would do it first thing in the morning so that it would be ready to dry up in your backyard. For the end of the day, they could fold it. So they would have radio
Oh,
dramas.
yeah.
And I loved listening to it. And I wasn't allowed because it was horror and stuff. But because it was so loud, I could hear it from where they were. And growing up, I remember there was Gabi ng Lagim. So Night Terror or something like
Yeah.
that. And it was a horror one. And it was fascinating because they did it live.
Yeah.
And the sound effects were done spontaneously live. And growing up, I thought there were lots of people in there, but I realized I watched one documentary or something that 2 people can actually be 2 characters. So it was very interesting because TV, that's why they call it the idiot box, right? They just feed everything to you. But radio, there's something about radio that you would have to be very imaginative up until now.
Yeah.
Because it's not visual.
My mom used to tell me about this, and like she was like, "Oh, I used to get so scared because they would
Yeah.
have this funny voice that sounds like a
Yes.
witch,
Yes.
but then there's like a child, and then there's an older lady, but they're like all the same person talking." Yeah.
So that was really fun. And the radio back then was called a transistor radio, and it worked only on batteries. So you would have to have the big ones, the C batteries, I think, like 8 of them.
Oh, like the huge
The huge batteries,
ones.
the round ones. So 8, it would use up 8 at a time. So a lot of people would save up their money to buy batteries for the radio.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever
Seen one
tried.
of
No, I've seen the batteries. I'm not sure about the radios.
the radio. Now it was, and it worked on a knob.
Oh, I remember those.
Yes.
I used to have one.
I mean, I think they still.
It looked like a speaker, right?
Yeah.
And that's it. And then you just have a knob, and
Yeah,
you have to be really good at tuning it. And sometimes people would put sticky tape on it so it doesn't move.
Is it like this sort
Yes.
of? Yeah. I think they still sell like the old design kind of radios in JB.
Yeah. So now they
But
call
it's
it
still-
retro.
Yeah, but it's still like
Digital.
new. Yeah,
Yeah.
digital. Yeah, I don't think I've listened to like radio dramas before because I'm usually more in like music. I listen to music a lot, and I remember like listening to like Papa Jack, and there's another one, the lady, I forgot her name, but it's like they would make a lot of jokes and stuff. It's like radios here as well. Like,
Yes.
they have.
So talk radio here is different as well. So even in FM they have talk radio, right? But I think in the Philippines that's how it is now as well. There's more talk and then music in between, and then because when I was in high school, I would always love Fridays because they have this radio station that would play Friday Magic Madness. So it was non-stop 80s music, and like 5 songs at a time, and then you get a few ads. But then it was back then we didn't have the iPod or Spotify, so it was like Spotify.
Yeah. They do that in Sundays. That's from what I can remember. Like on Sundays they play the old music. From my perspective, the old music. It was every Sunday, and I would be like, "Oh my god, here we go again!" Because the neighbors would play it. It was so loud.
So I think it's Magic 89.9. So they would play that Friday Magic Madness, and that was what we would listen to going to school, or if when I was at uni, like just tune it to that on a Friday.
Yeah, I just had this. I just remembered something. I had this like weird experience in radio here, that is to me sort of like an alien. You know when you see a UFO or something, it was like that. So I was like driving at night. I think about around 9 p.m. and I was like just sort of tuning, just finding a certain radio station, and there was this radio station. It was like I forgot which one it was, but it's like just buzzing. And then for like maybe a couple of seconds, it played a Filipino song.
Oh.
Only for a couple of seconds. And then it went back to like buzz. Like nothing at all. And I was like, oh my god. I was like,
so is
did
it
I
probably
hear it right?
bad reception?
But I was like, do they play Filipino songs here? Because it is Filipino. It's not like in English. It's an actual Filipino language song. I forgot which song it was, but it's like a really known OPM song. And I was like, because I don't know if they play Filipino songs here until I spoke to Brian.
They would, like, I think in SBS we play one on a Sunday. There's just a block for Filipino songs. And, or if you have that app, you can actually listen to radio station back in the Philippines.
Yeah. Yeah, like the online thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Radio Garden.
Okay. Yeah.
There's an app you can listen to every radio in the world. Really.
Yeah, I think my dad uses that. And I was like so proud. Like, look, you can listen to radio in the Philippines live. Like, okay.
Yeah, that's the magic of technology, isn't it? So I remember when I came here, you would have to subscribe to a cable channel to be able to watch, shows from the Philippines. Now you just go to the internet and you
Yeah.
can,
And usually they upload the full episodes on YouTube
and
nowadays.
streaming devices would have,
Yeah.
they're not pirated anymore.
Yeah. Well, I used to watch a lot of pirated stuff.
I remember
pirated animes and stuff.
if my if I had like a friend or relative or my sisters would come here, they ask me, "What do you want from the Philippines?" And I said, "Bring me DVDs." So they would, and I said, "But you have to buy the proper DVDs because I don't want to watch them in the middle and like wonder what happened in the end." Because you know how sometimes they stop.
Yeah.
So yeah, I remember the things that I would ask for apart from food is DVDs and CDs because they were hard to come by back then.
Yeah. I remember like specifically going to the palenque to get those pirated DVDs, and there's like a lot of them. So many stalls that sells them, but I have to choose the one that actually sells the better copy. Because like some of them they don't work properly, they just stop, or some of them because I would buy like animes.
Yes.
And some of them don't have like subtitles on, so I was like, there's no point to it because I don't understand what's happening.
Yes, but now there's streaming apps that you can watch them.
And I'm paying for it now, okay? It's not legal anymore.
Yeah, and I would tell my sisters, make sure you get the proper ones because if they see it in customs, you might go to, you might get into trouble. So I always got the proper ones.
I don't think I've actually.
I still have a lot of them at home.
Yeah.
Stuffed somewhere, and I remember I used to buy a lot of them for my children as well, like the movie, so that when we were at home, they would just play in the background. Even though the Wiggles DVDs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And now I ask people, do you want them? And goes, but it's on YouTube.
Yeah.
And I go, yeah, but I don't know what to do with what I have.
Yeah. There were times when I wanted to buy like DVDs for, like, say, a favorite singer of mine, because they
Concerts,
sell
right? Yes.
concert DVDs, but I don't have a player, so if I wanted to use the DVD, I would have to buy a player.
I don't think it's easy to come by nowadays.
Yeah,
because that's what people would say. Plus, we don't have a player. We don't even have a CD player.
yeah. But I still do collect CDs, like albums and stuff, because
so you don't like vinyls?
Well, I would have to buy a player.
Because growing up, that's what I listened to.
Yeah.
And people would revert back to buying vinyls and the turntables.
They sell it
yes.
now, yeah.
I don't like it.
Like, even the new singers, they would re-release it in vinyls.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
Why?
Because it was... So, I like to read and listen to music, right? Then so every time it would finish, I would have to go up, reset, take it out, put it... But whereas if I had a CD, I could just have it play on a loop if I wanted to. But in vinyl, you have to go up, physically take up the needle and put it back in. And for some reason, I don't like the popping sound. People like the popping sound. So when I worked for TV, we used to put musical score using vinyls. And I remember the musical scorers or the sound engineer would say, you have to get rid of this because it's too old, it's scratchy. You can hear the popping sound on air. And so that's how I did. That's why I've associated it with low quality. So, but people like listening to it.
Yeah. I mean, there's a certain, I guess, beauty to it, especially for those who love what's the word? Like the old stuff.
Yeah,
like,
retro.
Yeah, retro.
Vintage.
Yeah. Because there's a lot of people who loves that kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. For me, the best thing that technology has given when it came to music was the mini discs, because you could listen to it for an hour. It had that capacity. Or a CD, you can just put it on loop. Them streaming things. I don't really I find they're not user friendly for me. But yeah, so and I still like the quality of, you know, the proper CD or mini disc.
So you mentioned that you prefer like the newer or the cleaner or HD version of like music. I actually feel the same way with like movies or when I watch like TV series and stuff. Cause I don't know, I just like watching stuff in 4K or the highest quality
Yes.
as much as possible. And although I feel like it's a sin sometimes to say this because as a film student we study a lot of like the classical movies and like Tarantino films and I feel like a lot of my classmates look up to them and they'd be like, I'm gonna be the next Tarantino. I don't feel that way.
I don't like watching black and white.
I don't feel that way. And like
Yeah.
when they would ask me like what would be what was your favorite movie or who's your favorite director, I couldn't say, like I feel like they want me to say Tarantino or what's that other guy's name? I can't pronounce his name. But I don't genuinely enjoy their films. I can't say that it's them. I tried watching the Kill Bill.
I didn't like that.
I
That
didn't
was,
like it.
It was all killing and no story.
But a lot of people liked it apparently.
Yeah.
Oh.
So what?
I think if you're a fan of like westerns and old kung fu movies, you would really.
Yeah,
like
I
it.
did like Bruce Lee. So growing up, I grew up watching the Godfather films. I'd watch them again.
Oh, my
So
boyfriend loves them, but it
I like
bores
that.
me.
Yeah. So I loved watching that growing up. The Godfather. I remember I saw it on Facebook and my friend, because he teaches law, and he referenced the Goodfellas, where Al Capone was sent to jail on tax evasion, and no one knew who Al Capone was. Am I that really old? No one knew the movie. But yeah, I like watching films like that. But because I don't know, there was a time when it was so different, and if you watch it again, you'd still timeless. It's dated, but the way it was done, it was still beautifully done.
Yeah, I think the only time that I voluntarily watched technically an old movie was when I was doing research for Aswang, because I was like trying to watch different kinds of horror movies for inspirations and thinking of like what can I do, and I feel like a lot of the new not I couldn't find the perfect inspiration or reference for me with the new kind of horror movies. I found this one. I think it's called Rosemary's Baby. Have you?
Oh no!
Yeah,
Growing up, I watched the Saint Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah,
I love that.
yeah. I mean, I haven't heard of that film before either until I've done my research. But yeah, it's more of like a horror where you don't see the monster. So I was
It's like The Ring, maybe? No.
Well, I think the premise is there's the main character is the pregnant lady, just like my main character, and there's this cult who's trying to is chasing her because they want her baby, because apparently I think her baby's like the
It's like the Mayfair Witches. Have you
is
read
it?
that?
No.
Anne Rice. So
There's something about her baby that they're
will
worshipping the baby or
they'll
something.
be the next god or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like the Mayfair Witches.
Yeah, so it's like that kind of horror.
I used to be into that, so I've read most of Anne Rice's work, and it's just so. One of her more popular ones is Interview with the Vampire. So it's one of my favorite movies, but I still love the book better. So most of the time, I would make sure I read the book before I watched the movie. Because, so that's, I used to be hooked on Anne Rice for the longest time.
Yeah. Do you like the live adaptations though, or would you say you prefer the books?
It depends. So the book would just give. It depends on what the adaptation is. If it's a really bad one, But I would prefer to read the book first so that I've created an idea or a concept or how the person would look like or how the person is, and then I'd like to see if I had the same interpretation with the director or the screenwriter.
Yeah.
So but if I watch the movie first, I feel like it ruins the book for me. But if I read the book and then I watch the movie, you would 99% of the time the book is always better, but it's just nice to see it on moving image.
Yeah, yeah. I think I would prefer moving image instead of reading it on a book or manga. I only do it when, like, for say I'm watching that anime right there, Attack on Titan, and they sometimes it takes quite a long time before they release the next season, and I really want to know what's
So
gonna
you read the
happen
book.
next. So yeah, I would read the manga, but I only do it when I really couldn't handle it anymore. So yeah, that one I read the manga, finished it, and before they released the final season.
Yeah.
So I was like,
I like reading because it transports you to a place that only you can make out in your mind or
and you
in
have
your
your own imagination.
Yes. So it depends, the writer will have its own take on the story, but then you can have your own.
yeah,
So that's why I like, and it takes you to places you've never been, and then it's like, oh, I want to go there. And
Yeah.
is it really like that?
yeah, true. I'm a bit lazy though. I don't like flipping through the pages. That's why I prefer just watching.
Yeah. But I would rather read fiction than nonfiction. So
yeah.
if it's nonfiction, I'd watch a documentary.
True. Yeah, yeah.
But if I'd rather fiction.
Yeah, and they can make documentaries like really interesting.
Yes.
Like with the series or
Yes.
and Netflix does it a lot.
Yes,
Yeah.
I agree. And I like doing. I miss doing that for TV because I used to do that back home.
Ah.
So and that's how it's different if you put a story together, someone else's story together. There's something that it leaves me in awe, like if it's happened in history. Like I remember one time we did a semi-documentary of how Henny Lopez escaped from the Philippines during the Marcos time, and so I was really, and I was like, oh my God, I met the person that happened. This is part of history, and I met the person. So that was really something.
Yeah. How does it usually start for you? Like, what was the process of like researching and putting from research to putting the story together?
Well, back then we'd have a weekly brainstorming, and so we'd kind of, which is like we'd call what's our breaking story for this week. So it has to be a running story which is developing throughout the week, and then you'd have like the medium story, which is like can be timeless, can be historical, and then you'd have the very light story. It can be about entertainment or the arts and things like that. And so you'd work your way through an idea, and then as you work your way up to the story, you'd say, who's a good talent for this, or who's you just it just you will have to fit the pieces together. It's like a puzzle, and you'd have to have the perfect alignment of everything for it to flow perfectly. So when I did it back in the 90s, it was a lot of legwork. It was a lot. I think up to now, networking is still important.
Yeah.
But you can do your networking on social media. But with me, it involved a landline. Or meeting up with someone or beeping them. It's like, this is Maridel. I'm interested in doing a story. Can you please return my call? So things
and you had to wait.
Yes, and you had to wait for your beeper. So back then we had beepers.
Yes, I've heard of beepers.
And you wouldn't want to be on your mobile for the longest time because they charged you per minute and it was really expensive.
Yeah.
I remember back then we would always do landline calls because it was way cheaper. But then you'd have to dial the number, and then I don't think you know this, but you get a busy tone because someone was using it. So yeah, and then you just have to wait by the phone, keep on dialing. There was no redial, so you'd have to keep on dialing the number until you've memorized it, until they answer up. So you would hope that the person using the other line would put it down if they didn't have call wait.
I feel like it sort of works similarly today.
But now you can leave an email.
Yeah, and like you can leave a voicemail or something when you're calling.
And I think people are quick to reply nowadays because it's less effort.
Yeah, true. Unless they don't want to talk to you.
Yes,
that's true. Yeah.
And I had like a filofax of all my contacts because our cell phones only had like up to 10 numbers on memory. Yeah, so
you would have your own yellow page.
Yes, I have my own diary that had a part for addresses in the back, or I have my own address book. Yeah,
that's why. Because I used to own this, I think, like address book or something when I was really young, but I never really found the use to it. I was like, I don't need it. I have my phone.
Yeah, back then we needed it. We used it a lot.
Yeah, it's just to me like fascinating. Oh, I have this thing. Yeah.
Retro again.
Yeah. Just speaking of like networking earlier, because I was wondering, how did you found me? Because you just messaged me on Facebook, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, before we had it.
I messaged you on Facebook because I found you, I think, on social media.
Okay.
So a lot of stories get picked up through social media. So it can be like a friend posting, I'm really proud of Kashi for what she's done. She's done a movie. Yeah. And then I just Googled you. And so that's how easy it is now, right? So before, when I was starting up in the industry, I wouldn't even hear of you unless I knew someone that you knew. Yeah. So I would go find the person who knew you, ask that person to give you your number to me, and I will have to call you on your landline and stuff like that. So yeah. So things are much quicker now. Yeah.
True. I think I did the same thing. Because like, who's this person? Like, from SBS? Is this legit? Yes. Is this a scammer? Yeah, right. So I had to Google if you're an actual person. Yeah.
I know, because when my children like Googled, I Googled you, Mom, and so many things about you. Yeah. So, because we publish our podcast. Yeah. So if you Google me, you'd see my podcasts that I did for work. So yeah. So sometimes technology can be helpful and useful, but sometimes it can be the bane of your existence as well.
Oh yeah, like one of the topics that Alfred and I had in the first episode was like AI and how it replaces a lot of stuff nowadays. And even in like, now that I think about it, like supermarkets, you can do your own scanning by yourself.
Yes, I don't like that.
I don't go there unless I'm really in a hurry, and I only have like a couple of items.
5 pieces. Yeah, but if I had to shop for the family for the week, I'd still like to go into the counter where there's a person scanning it for me, putting it in the bag for me. I don't like bagging it myself because I can't keep up. And I feel that it loses the human side of things. So if you're just scanning and you're trying to be as quick as you are, it erases the humanity of it all. Like, hi, how are you? What you've been doing? Oh, this is a good brand. And I love small talk. I talk to the person I buy my coffee from, and I talk to the person who checks my Mikey on the train, and you just say, hey, how are you? It's a good day. Simple things like that, because it reminds you of humanity, and it reminds you that people can still be kind, or there is still something good in the world. Maybe you're having a bad day, and that one small chat will make a big difference and change the way you look at the day.
Yeah, true. I mean, I'm not a small talk kind of person. I'm very introverted. So
Oh,
I'm
my
gonna
husband tells me I talk too much.
but I guess yeah, I agree with you though. I do, and I feel like it's better to feel like there's someone in front of you who could help you if there's anything you need help with. Although they do have like one staff overseeing the
Yes.
self checkout, but sometimes they would be too busy helping the other person.
And she would be too tired because she's been scanning and saying, correcting and things, because she's
Yeah.
just one person doing that. And I think what AI diminishes is the human connectivity.
Mm.
So, it because it's a machine made by humans to function more efficiently than humans, but it loses that connection.
Yeah.
And for me, I think it can never replace us, because one way or the other, it would still need us for it to function.
Yeah.
And who does the commands, who does everything? It's still humans. So and humans would find other ways to do and work their ways around artificial intelligence. But what it can never replace is the human connectivity and the humanity, that the reality is we're still humans, and we
Yeah.
still need that. We
Yeah.
still need the touch. We still need the comfort of a person saying, it'll be okay. You can ask ChatGPT to say, ChatGPT, how will you make me feel better today?
Yeah.
You still have to talk to someone who can talk back to you and converse and somehow feel your vibe, or feel how happy or sad you are,
Yeah.
and to share it with someone who can actually, laugh with you.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I do you know that there's like a AI DJ in Spotify?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I tried to veer away from that.
I mean, I was fascinated by it because it's like, talking to me, it knows the kind of music that I
Yeah.
like. But at the same time, made me think like how AI in terms of like film has already been a problem, and which is what they strived for with the writers and actors in America. Is it already a problem as well in terms of journalism and radioing?
It can be. I think AI is a tool, and you have to use it wisely. If you use it wisely, it can help you. If you abuse it and if you depend too much on it, it can destroy you.
Mm.
So, as a journalist, the most important thing you have to your name is your credibility. So, if you lose that, you don't have anything anymore.
Mm.
Like, your credibility is basically the thing that keeps you going in the industry. And if you lose that, you become a joke. So, I think that's we can use AI as a tool to help us. Sometimes you get writer's block, you can ask AI to assist you, or sometimes you just want to see if your sentence is grammatically correct or if your punctuations are correct. You can use AI for that. But to build your story, to write it, to present it, it has to be your own words, your own thoughts, your own ideas. Because eventually, if you depend too much on it, people will know.
Mm, that's true. Yeah, and especially like with journalism, we can forget about fiction writing because fiction is fiction, but with anything that involves factual, you have to be if you're writing that involves like factual stuff, it has to be like the viewers should be able to trust that what you're presenting is true, at least.
Yes, this is
Or
what I tell my children, because my children say, Mom, Google it. Google knows everything.
mm,
And I tell them, not everything you read in the World Wide Web is true.
yeah, oh my god,
So
there's so many fake
yes.
news.
So you still have to practice critical thinking, and
Mm.
that's where, you know, that's where That's one thing that you would have to train or teach your children to do.
Mm.
That's why I tell my children, you always have to read, because if you read, you develop a lot of skills. You develop language skills, you develop critical thinking skills, you develop prose, So reading really teaches you a lot of things. And the most important thing in any job, I think, is the how to develop that critical thinking thing, because without it, a lot of things will fall
Yeah,
or fail.
definitely. So this is a question that I ask my guest towards the end is like, what kind of advice or tips can you give to our fellow Filipinos here who are sort of, maybe they want to start in the journalism industry as well?
Good question.
Yeah.
I've never been asked that. I think you really have to love it. You really have to have the passion for it, because if you have that, you would have to have the passion to learn, to read, because those are the tools and the skills that you would need. You need to have really good critical thinking for you to be able to form a good story. You would have to have the passion for it, because it's a thankless job. Like, some days you get a good story, some days you'd be off and you don't know what to do. But then the prices, if you want to have prices, and if you want to be, patted a pat on the back for every job you do, don't get into journalism because it's not what it is. So you would really need to love it. And when you love it, everything else will come easily. But the thing you would have to always remember is it's like being in the medical field. You would always have to learn new things every single day, be it technology wise, be it facts for a story. And and if you could if you're willing to learn, then you're in the right job. I think anything in life now with technology so fast,
Yeah.
like in the making films, you would always be willing to learn. But if you really want to be a good journalist, and if you really want to produce a good story, I also advise you that you would have to be a good listener, and you would have to be a good conversationalist, because you would have to have those skills to be able to tease out, you know, the things that you would want from your talent or your source, or and you would be able to for you to be able to tell a good story, it would always have to come from the heart, and that would only come from the heart if you know how to listen.
Yeah. That
And
is
of course, read.
That's a very good advice. I just had a thought. How would you rate my, I guess, interviewing or conversational?
I had fun.
That's
I had fun.
good.
So I think, and the main thing as well is, in anything that you do in life, you have to have fun. Because if it's no longer fun, it becomes a job.
Yeah.
But if you enjoy it, it becomes something that you do, that becomes part of you. I've been in this industry for 30 plus years, and I couldn't picture myself doing anything else, because I love telling stories. Not my story, but people's stories. And I love meeting people. And from the people that I meet, the people that I interview, I learn new things. And that makes me be a better person, and makes helps me become better at my job. So I don't think I could sit behind a computer and do analytics all day, or do some, analyze graphs, or talk in corporate meetings, because no, that wouldn't be fun for me. That would be a job for me.
Yeah.
But for me to sit behind the computer, listen to the interview I've done, or research, or read, and so that would help me build a story, for me, that is the fun bit.
I totally agree with that because I used to be a business student right before doing film, And I used to hate, working with spreadsheets and documents and stuff.
No.
But now I do it, in relation to films and my own projects, and I love it. I get excited.
It makes it more interesting.
Yeah.
I still don't know how to work on Excel. I don't like it, but if I have to do it for work, it makes it fun. But if I had to do it for budget, no thanks. I'll be cranky all day. So it always has to be fun. You always have to like what you do, and you don't have to like the people you work with, but you always have to connect to them or with them, because there's some people in your lives that you don't necessarily like, but you work well together.
Yeah.
So you just have to find the connection.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much for that.
Thank you for this is a very different experience. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you again for accepting my invitation. I was really nervous about this one because you're someone with like so much experience in terms of doing this.
You should have been more nervous with Alfred.
I was really nervous because it was first episode. Like if you watched the episode, I feel like I look very awkward and nervous.
But Alfred, I find that when I interview Alfred, there's that warmth that comes out, and he just makes you feel at ease.
Yeah, so I think it was a very good decision.
Yes, it was a very good start.
Yeah. So thank you again, and I hope you had fun. I learned a lot.
I learned a lot.
I learned about the Betacam, and how the editing back then
and making playlists in the 80s.
What the mixtape was. So
yeah. So as my children would say, it's very ancient, olden day. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.